last event for the year.
We've only got 6 rounds this year instead of 7, but it's going to be an exciting season.
Like I said, there's a lot of variables in off-road racing, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, let's see. We also want good results though, so there is a little bit of pressure.
Welcome to the Renault KEC 400 Rally, round 1 of the 2025 South African Rally Raid Championship. It's a place where the biggest names in the world of rally raid racing are preparing to do battle once again. And what a battle it is going to be. After torrential rain for the most part of 2025, the start of the 2025 title fight was delayed until now, with the running of the Renault-sponsored KEC 400 race near and around the town of Bronkhorstspruit, on the outskirts of Gauteng, near the border with Mpumalanga.
Yeah, it's a bit later than usual, but I think it's been worth it. We focused on the Safari Rally. I mean, we had the world's best here in South Africa, so we did well for Motorsport South Africa. And now we're starting our season. The weather affected us a bit, so we've only got 6 rounds this year instead of 7. But it's going to be an exciting season, you know, 6 rounds, one after the other for the next 6 months. So we're looking forward to that.
We've got such a nice championship here in South Africa.
Compressed season at the end,
So we're going to have to really be on it.
So looking forward to the season.
This is round 1 of the toughest rally raid championship in the world, with high-speed action and plenty of drama guaranteed. No less than 12 crews took the starters' orders in the Ultimate FIA T1 Plus category. This is the same category as the top-level cars that compete at the Dakar and other World Rally Raid Championship events, such as the South African Safari Rally earlier this year. They are the fastest rally raid machines on the planet, driven by the best drivers. And on this cold winter's morning, they were lining up to tackle the 20-kilometer-long Castrol qualifying race within the grounds of the Legends Adventure Farm Rhino Park between Pretoria and Bronkhorstspruit to determine the starting positions for the all-important Stage 1 of the race. The top drivers from Toyota Gazoo Racing, Castrol Ford Rally Raid, #Team Hilux Rally Raid, and Redline Motorsport were here to do battle on 4 wheels. And with the defending champion Henk Ladegan absent from the South African Championship due to international commitments, the door was wide open as the rest of the crews started their quest for 2025 championship glory. Youngster Sahoud Variawa completed his second Dakar earlier this year and has his sights set on a first SA Rally Raid title.
It will obviously be my first full year. Last year we were out for half the season, so I think the car has been amazing. We've done a lot of testing after the Safari as well.
But the youngster and his French navigator Francois Cazelet found the going tough on the opening 20-kilometer qualifying stage, only managing the 9th fastest time. The Portuguese crew of João Ferreira and Felipe Palmeiro joined the Toyota Gazoo Racing squad for the first time here in Bronkhorstspruit and started their local campaign with the 8th fastest time, just 5 seconds faster than their teammate Variawa. Janelle de Villiers was retired from the sport after this year's Dakar, but the South African legend found a new home across the pits at the Team Hilux Rally Raid squad.
Racing is in my blood. I love the adrenaline, and it's great to just have another year or two, just have fun and enjoy ourselves.
The man from Stellenbosch had a steady run that saw him set the 7th fastest time, still coming to grips with having a new navigator in the form of Leander Pienaar. Gareth Woolridge is also a former South African champion and fresh from a good result at this year's Safari Rally in the locally produced and developed Castrol Ford Ranger.
It's a really competitive field, everyone's quick, so we're going to have to really be on it and still be sharp.
Times in a short 20-kilometer qualifying race were always going to be close, and the former champion missed out on a top 5 by mere 2 seconds. Speaking of close, the times set by the next 3 crews were in fact identical. German driver Jürgen Schroeder and his South African navigator Henry Kiener stopped the clock on a time of 11 minutes and 11 seconds in their immaculate VCT Volkswagen Amarok. but so did Lance Woolridge and Andre Vermeulen in a second Castrol Ford Ranger. Woolridge, who serves as team manager for the NWM Ford squad in recent times, was a late call-up to fill the driver's seat of the old spec Ranger belonging to Vorst Prinsloo, who was suffering from a shoulder injury and did a great job to run amongst the front runners in his first outing in nearly 9 months. The third that set the identical time of 11 minutes and 11 seconds was the remaining Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Hilux, driven by stalwart Guy Botterill and new Spanish navigator Mene Valdercos, who took no time at all to get comfortable in the passenger seat next to the experienced Botterill. And finally, someone was able to break the tie. That someone, talented youngster Jaden Els and Navi Johan Swimmer in the ever-improving Redline Revo GTR. Els' time was 11 minutes and 7 seconds, beating the trio behind him by full 4 seconds. But that meant missing out on pole position by 1 single second, as the youngster was beaten to a qualifying victory by the brother combination of Versheer and Bertus Blickno in the second Team Hilux Rally Raid Hilux. The brothers from Witbank have been showing increasing amounts of promise since joining the sport just a few years ago. And once again, the qualifying race of the KEC 400 was no different. Confirmation of the Blickno's narrow qualifying victory over young Els with a three-way tie consisting of Guy Botterill, Lance Woolridge and Daniel Schroeder, completing the top 5 in the Ultimate FIA T1 Plus category. For 2025, the South African Rally Raid Championship will feature a class specifically for Ultimate T1 Plus cars with a slightly lower specification, and for crews with South African Championship aspirations. It's called Ultimate T1 Plus SA, and it's a place that saw the welcome return of the popular Horn brothers from Malalan behind the wheel of their Team Hilux Rally Raid Hilux called Hifpale 2.
We're racing in the MSA class this year, and we've got Castrol on board as a new sponsor for Malalan Toyota.
The Horn brothers slotted right back into the swing of things by comfortably setting the fastest time in their class. Although way faster than the second place crew, the brothers from Malalan would have their sights set on some of the crews in the FIA class. Former circuit racer Cor Krumwinkel made his Rally Raid debut in the King Price Extreme Volkswagen Amarok and set the second fastest time in the SA class, beating the third place crew of Namibian Marco Himmel and navigator Francois Gunby, with the red-lined motorsport driver of Donnie Liddick and Denzel Williamson bringing up the rear at this early part of the race. This is how it stacked up for the Ultimate T1 Plus SA crews after the short qualifying race, with the Horn brothers in a class of their own, ahead of the chasing pack consisting of Krumwinkel, Himmel and Liddick. 5 crews and cars took the starters' orders at the KEC 400 race to also signal the start of the 2025 championship for the Adventurer class. This class, for slightly older specification race cars with much smaller wheels, is also home to racing stalwart Johan van Staden, who also played a big part in bringing his sponsored Renault and KEC not only to the sport, but also to partner on this event.
Last year we got them to buy into this idea, and as you can see this morning, where they fully bought into the idea. They know exactly what we're trying to do. There's a lot of influences that's taking place from that.
The amicable van Staden could however only manage the 4th fastest time in class, as his KEC Renault Duster was beaten to the line by the red-line VK56 of Nikus Heinlein by 22 seconds. Ahead of Heinlein, another Heinlein in the form of the son and father pairing of Rudy and Gerard Heinlein, also in a red-line VK56. But the pairing setting the pace in the Adventurer class was none other than Johan de Bruin and Navi Adrian Rix in the red-line Revo T1. 10 seconds was the margin between De Bruin and the first of the Heinleins, with another member of the Heinlein family rounding out the Adventurer class qualifying podium. Round 1 of the 2025 SA Rally Raid Championship saw just 2 entries in the Challenger class, but this class is guaranteed to grow as the year progresses. Favourite to win is Stellenbosch resident and young lady driver Puck Klaasen. With new but experienced navigator Dani Stassen, who indeed went half a minute faster than Dutch driver Pim Klaasen, with Gerard Skitter reading the notes in the Daklepak Taurus T3 Max. A great start for the young lady. So that was the first qualifying of 2025 done and dusted, and this was why it is so important, the opportunity to draw your starting position for the race proper. A simple matter that can have a huge influence on the overall outcome. Different crews have different strategies, and this is how the dice was rolled after the draw. Youngster Jaden Els chose to open the road ahead of Ariawa and Portuguese driver João Ferreira, and local hero De Villiers in fourth. Lithno, who had the final pick following his win in qualifying, chose to be the 9th car on the road. Which strategy would be the best? Only time would tell, and the time to tackle stage 1 of the KEC 400 race was now. Still on the cards for the opening day of the 2025 SA Rally Raid Championship, around 80 more challenging kilometers of dry and dusty dirt roads in and around the Legends Rhino Park Adventure Farm, and the town of Bronkhorstspruit further to the east. In the Challenger class, it was Pim Klaasen who turned the tables on the young Puck Klaasen by turning a 30-second deficit into an overnight lead, but only by the slightest of margins. The difference between the two was a mere 2 seconds, leaving everything to play for on day 2. In the Adventurer class, it was Johan de Bruin and Adrian Ritz who converted their class pole position into an even bigger lead following the day's action. The Redline Revo's lead was 10 seconds at the start of the stage, but after covering another 80 kilometers, the Pretoria businessman extended it to 2 minutes and 26 seconds at the end of the day. The KEC Renault crew of father and son Johan and Sean van Staden managed to pass both the Nickus and Gerard Highline Redline VK56s to climb from 4th in class to 2nd, exactly what sponsors Renault would have required them to do. In the Ultimate T1 Plus SA class, Namibian Marco Himmel was having visibility issues due to malfunctioning windscreen wipers and ended the day last in class as a result. The King Price Extreme Volkswagen Amarok, normally piloted by Skalk Burger, was now in the hands of former circuit racing driver Cor Kramwinkel, who did a good job of occupying the current 3rd spot in class, alongside Navi Armand Dutoy. Donnie Luddick and Denzel Williamson may still be fairly new to the sport of rally raid racing, but the pairing is quickly finding their feet from behind the wheel of the Redline Revo as they finished the day 2nd in class. But they were some way behind the category leaders, who made a welcome return to the sport after being absent for a while. Going to bed as the overnight leaders of this class were none other than Johannes van der Horn, who not only led the SA class by quite some margin, but were also very high up on the overall rankings in their Team Hilux Rally Raid Hilux.
Vanna was on the spot with the navigating. But yeah, and the team did a great job with the vehicle.
After the first day's racing of 2025, it was a close affair at the top of the Challenger class standings, with just 2 seconds separating the Klaasens Pim and Puck. Johan de Bruin had a healthy lead over van Staden and a host of members of the Heinlein family, while the Horn brothers were well in command of the Ultimate T1 Plus SA category ahead of Luddick and Kramwinkel. With all to play for, the country's best crews and the best factory cars set off in their quests to gun for glory during the opening round of the 2025 SA Rally Raid Championship. Marcus Baumgart and navigator Kai Bacincia may be experienced rally raid racers in their native Brazil, but the Castrol Ford squad was struggling to get to grips with the dry and dusty conditions of the Highveld in winter. They completed the day 7th in class ahead of the 2 Redline Revo T1 GTR race cars of Dutch drivers Rins Hofstra and Dave Klaasen, who rounded out the class. Lance Woolridge, who stood in for Force Prinsloo in the older Castrol Ford Ranger, was going well, but lost time after having to stop to fasten a bonnet clip and then also suffering from a flat tyre. 6th at the end of the day for the Ford driver. After a successful career spanning decades, Janelle de Villiers would have seen all sorts of conditions and types of terrain before. But the Stellenbosch-based driver was still getting used to the new voice directing him where to go. Fifth fastest on the day for de Villiers and Janda Pienaar in the Team Hilux Rally Raid Hilux. German driver Daniel Schroeder and Henry Kierner continued their impressive run of form in the immaculate WCT Volkswagen Amarok. The pairing ended the first day's racing in fourth on the overall leaderboard, just 38 seconds from the lead. A number of very fast and talented drivers were all gunning for the lead, but there was heartache for the Portuguese crew of João Ferreira and Felipe Palmeiro in their first outing in the Toyota Gazoo Racing Hilux.
In the normal road of the race, I locked the wheels on the grass and I just went straight, and was a left corner, and after a right it was a lake or a big hole with water, and I just fall inside, and it's what it is.
Youngster Jaden Ells had aspirations of making his mark, but he too was forced to throw in the towel.
We hit the ditch in between trees, and it was very unexpected for us, and the car threw the car to the right into a couple of trees, and then our steering rack got some mechanical damage.
The man who started the stage as the lead after setting the fastest time in qualifying was none other than Fouché Blikno, but the big man was also not destined to finish the day.
We bent the shaft on the rear damper and it just collapsed.
With many of the top crews already falling by the wayside, it became a three-way fight for the top spot between the Toyota Gazoo Hiluxes of Guy Bottrell and Sahut Variawa and the Castrol Ford of Gareth Woolridge. All crews found the dry and dusty conditions rougher than expected, and when the flag was waved to signal the end of day one, it was Sahut Variawa who completed the day with the third fastest time. Variawa and Frenchman Casley were just 11 seconds slower than the crew ahead of them. Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer drove superbly to complete the day in second, just 7 seconds from the overall lead. At the end of a tough day one here at the Legends Adventure Farm, it was Toyota's Guy Bottrell who posted the best time of 1 hour 17 minutes and 13 seconds to top the standings. Despite having to race with new navigator Oriol Mena Valdercos for the first time and struggling with a malfunctioning GPS. Just 7 seconds between the top two and less than a minute between the top five after full day of action at the Renault KEC 400. Join us after the break for day 2 of round 1 of the 2025 South African Rally Raid Championship. Welcome back to the Legends and Rhino Park Adventure Farm, home to the Renault KEC 400 race, round 1 of the much anticipated South African Rally Raid Championship. It's the final day and it's a cold one. It's dry, dusty and windy, a typical winter's day in Gauteng. Temperatures may have been freezing out in the farmland roads, but the action from inside the cockpits was about to heat up. Former rally winners and class champions Johan and Van Horn made a welcome return to the sport after missing most of the 2024 season due to personal reasons. The third crew of the popular #Team Hilux Rally Raid squad could not have asked for a better outing, not only dominating the ultimate South African class, but beating a number of the factory teams on the overall rankings in the process.
Never got out of the vehicle. The guys from Alantia preparing the car did a great job.
Maximum points for the Horn brothers and the sweet taste of champagne on the first winners podium for the 2025 season. There it is, a huge winners margin for the Horn brothers over Himmel and Ludik, who rounded out the podium. Johan de Bruyn and Avi Adrian Rutz started the final day with the comfortable lead over rivals Johan and Sean van Staden. For once, the rally guards did not bother enforcing the sponsor's curse, as the van Staden father and son pairing overcame a 1.5 minute deficit at the start of the day and managed to turn it into a very comfortable class victory at the end of the race. Precisely what sponsors Renault would have wanted on the event sporting their name. Van Staden did receive a bit of help from overnight leader de Bruyn, who was running at a brisk pace until a CB joint gave up the ghost, rendering the car to two-wheel drive. Repairs were made at the halfway mark, but the damage was done. and the victory was lost. Victory for the Van Stadens on their home event, while De Bruyn was left thinking of what could have been. A Heinlein completed the adventure podium in the form of Nickers. Perhaps this is not the way you want to win a national rally, but through no fault of their own, Puck Klaassen was the last man, or is that the last female standing, after 400 grueling kilometers of high-fault, dirty and dusty roads. Conditions in Bronkhorstspruit must be very different to what the Stellenbosch resident is used to. But with the aid of Dani Stassen in the hot seat, the lady driver collected all the points that were up for grabs. Her main rival, namesake Pim Klaassen, and local lad Gerard Skitter were involved in an accident on a road section, fortunately without injuries, leaving the female Klaassen to take the first win of 2025 in the promising Challenger class.
I'm really happy because we had a very clean weekend. It was very tricky.
Fischer and Bantus Blickner were the pole setters on the Friday, but the race went from great to bad to worse. The Team Hilux crew repaired the broken suspension after Friday, but the Hilux got severely stuck in mud on Saturday morning, robbing them of any chance of a good result. Youngster Jaden Knowles failed to finish the Friday stages, but restarted the Saturday with a 10-hour penalty, effectively ruling him out of contention. The Brazilian pairing of Marcus Baumgart and Kieba Sincia continued their African adventures with yet another outing on SA soil, following a successful safari rally earlier this year. The Castrol Ford crew were rewarded with a 6th place finish for their efforts. The race turned out to be a good outing for the Castrol Ford squad. With just 2 days to go, Lance Woolridge was still managing the team, but stood in for Vos Prinsloo at the last minute. Despite suffering 2 punctures, the crew finished 5th, just 83 seconds behind the crew in 4th. German Daniel Schroeder started the day in 3rd despite a brilliant drive in the WCT Amarok. The German got reeled in by his nearest competitor and had no choice but to relinquish his podium position. The man who steadily reeled the German in to take over 3rd needs no introduction. Local hero Janelle de Villiers is getting used to the new voice in the nav seat and drove a steady race to record yet another podium finish in his long and distinguished career. Joy for de Villiers, but heartache for his former teammate Guy Bottrell. The Toyota Gazoo racing star started the day as the overall leader of the event, but his lead was short-lived. An overheating issue just 4 minutes in robbed his Hilux of power steering, forcing him out of contention for the rest of the race. This opened the door for teammate Sahud Variawa to take the fight to former SA champions Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer. Toyota versus Ford. Toyota's young gun, fresh from his 2nd Dakar rally in 2025, fought bravely, but received a 2-minute penalty for overspeeding in a road section. In the end, this didn't really matter, because the pace of the Ford in the hands of Woolridge was just too good on the day. The 2023 champion had a flawless outing and opened his 2025 title chase with a great victory on the Highveld. The winning margin, 2 minutes and 38 seconds in Woolridge's favour. Variawa recorded his best ever result in the SA Championship, with de Villiers rounding out the podium.
Fantastic feeling to come here and a great reward for all the guys. And coming off the back of the safari, finishing 4th, it's nice to keep that momentum and top it up with a win in the local series.
Teams will now have 7 weeks to prepare for the next outing on the banks of the Vaal River at the Free State town of Parys. The weekend will consist of both rounds 2 and 3, and will no doubt play a huge part in the overall outcome of the 2025 title fight. See you there.